Last month, I decided to give up on my lifelong dream of being an indie game developer. In this video, I'll not just talk about why I did it, but also how it improved my creativity and helped with burnout. So let's start with why I gave up. It was sort of a combination of two reasons. The first being that I had tried since I was like 11 to make games. It was sort of the first thing that combined all of my interests in such an exciting new way. So I sort of just picked it and went along with it for the rest of my life. And since then, I just spent all of my free time developing games, or at least trying to. The problem was that while I could start projects, I could never actually finish them. So I've started probably over 100 games and not finished a single one. I never really considered it a problem because I kept learning something with each new game and getting better with each project. But it wasn't until a few years ago when I tried to actually start making money from indie games that I realized that it would be a really big problem. I could work on projects for a few months, but once I got the groundwork down and saw how much was still left to go, it got really difficult to keep going. And I would always just come up with a new idea that seemed much more exciting and much more like something I wanted to work on. As a consequence, I got really good at the first parts of making a game, getting all of the rules in, stuff like the player movement, but I never got good at the later stages, like making a cohesive story or settling on an identifiable aesthetic. I kept thinking that if I just put my head down and pushed, eventually the motivation would come back and I'd be able to finish the project. But once I actually tried to do that, I soon found out that it just didn't work. I couldn't force myself to be motivated to do something, and sometimes the motivation would come back, but it would be short lived and wouldn't last long enough to get the project over the finish line. And so, what I decided last month is that I'm just not built for it. I don't have the type of brain that can just work on one thing for multiple years. And going into the second reason, I don't even know if I want to. So, the second reason why I quit game development is that games are a really, really big risk to work on. They take at least 6 months, usually multiple years to make. And during that time, you're not making any money. And then afterwards, there's no guarantee that you even will. And on top of that, it can be really hard to tell if a game is good until the final stages. So while working on these games, I just felt a lot of pressure and a lot of dread that it would all be for nothing. That kind of fed into the first reason and made it harder to stay motivated when I didn't feel like I could experiment or sacrifice any quality. So, for both of those reasons, last month I decided to give up. I decided I was done with it, I wasn't made for it, so I would do something else instead. Now, what am I doing instead? Well, the first thing I tried to do was reignite some old hobbies that I'd forgotten about. Animation and art are still part of game development, but I hadn't really focused on them since I was so caught up in the beginning stages all the time. And for the past month, I've basically just been animating and drawing stuff and doing whatever I can that's not game development. And another thing that I'm doing is, of course, YouTube. I had another channel before that got a little bit of success, which is technically much more than I've ever had in game development. So I've decided in my free time, instead of game development, I'm just going to do YouTube. It scratches the exact same creative itch that game development does. The only reason I haven't been doing it has just been because I decided to pick game development when I was like 11 and just stuck with it. But now, having given up on game development, I feel like I have a lot more freedom to choose something that might actually work for me. Working on YouTube videos has been a very different experience than I've had working on games. And I'd like to make another video sometime about what I've learned about creativity and how I think I might be able to bring it back into game development. With YouTube videos, I feel like I can sacrifice the quality a lot and still have a finished product. I'm a lot less invested in the success of each video than I am with games. So that kind of allows me to sacrifice the quality a bit, which actually ends up being the only reason I can finish them. And it allows me to do a bit more of an iterative style where I make it first and then improve it later. Whereas with games, I felt such a pressure to make it perfect that I didn't really let myself experiment or try new things. So, should you give up on your dream? Well, I think it's worth considering. There might be something that you arbitrarily picked years ago that is just holding you back. I would take a look at any problems that you're having with your creative process and seeing if you can work those out by doing something else. I tried for a very long time to make it easier to finish games. I tried making much smaller games. I tried making games without caring about the end result. But the inevitable truth was that games are just a high effort medium. It's really difficult to make a game that's low effort and not just complete trash. Whereas a YouTube video, even though it's low effort, still has some value to it. I really think another hidden benefit of making stuff low effort is that you can't really see the flaws until it's fully completed. And with these YouTube videos, start to finish, it takes like 2 hours to make one, which means I can make a lot more of them, but I can also make changes and see how they affect the whole video rather than just guessing how it will turn out. This video, actually, I tried scripting it. I wrote a script. I've made like 50 iterations on it. I kept rewriting it for the algorithm, trying to optimize attention and stuff. And in the end, I just ended up winging it. Because if I keep iterating the script, then I just get more and more invested each time and feel like it has to be completely perfect. And in the end, that ends up ruining my creativity a little bit. So, what's the lesson here? I think all in all, what it comes down to is try to find something to do that matches your creative process and how your brain actually works. Game development kind of trapped me for a bit because it had all of the things that I wanted to do, but I could never do anything that would result in success since I just keep making projects that no one would ever see. I had a lot of fun doing it, but it wasn't helping me out in my life at all. And there are other things that I have fun doing that I actually see progress from. So I think it's worth considering focusing on those instead rather than just chasing something that isn't working. I'm going to continue posting these YouTube videos, and each time I'll do a little bit more effort than the last one, just a little. Over time, we'll see if eventually I can work my way back up to long-term projects like game development. And if this channel were to ever kind of take off, it would be really comforting to know that I'd have some sort of following to play games once they're out. I hope that doesn't sound narcissistic or anything. It's just very scary to invest multiple years in something without having any certainty of success. And I do want to get better at making these videos, even though I'm not putting that much effort in. It doesn't mean that I can't improve in obvious ways. So if you made it this far, I want you to roast this video. Pick it apart, find any flaw in it, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, and I'll try to improve on it in the next one.